Sure, let's get started. Um,
No, your screen share is not started yet. Okay, now it's started.
Yep. So, very good morning, folks, and good afternoon to all of you in UK. So, I'm just going to kind of quickly talk about a few things. First is just a few updates. We basically just got our SOC 2 Type 2 certification revalidated. So, we had a little bit of a delay in some of the proposed releases and moves because of certain restrictions and certain things that were essentially put in place. The second thing which I wanted to kind of walk through is that we have now migrated all the reports that are there in V3 with templates. So if you remember what we did with V4 is that we started off with a new engine. We basically did not use any of the templates from V3. And thanks to some conversations that we had with various people, we very quickly have realized that we need to bring back those templates because the templates were a great mechanism for people to customize the data that they were going to put in it and then enhance that entire mechanism. So what we've done is that in the last week, we basically kind of migrated the existing V3 reporting engine and all of the templates to the new V4 engine. So the team has basically kind of redone all the templates and then migrated all the templates over to this side. And we've also written a automated script that will migrate any of the customizations that you have made in V3 to automatically upload those as customizations in V4. So this is also automatic. So there is nothing that you have to do once we basically migrate you over. So if you want to make any further customizations, then you can download the template and you can basically start working from that. So that's how this will give essentially a good start. So the last thing was that basically we were supposed to send a bunch of reports. We actually have prepared those reports, but I've not been able to run those reports. So the point is that we have good looking templates, but the point is that if I send a template out, you will not be able to understand what it would look like in your customer environment. So we're just waiting for the this week to pass so that our entire audit period is over. And then we basically will, this week, we will be able to kind of start publishing those templates selectively to all of you who basically have said that you'll be part of this whole reporting feedback system. And we will be publishing it to you. And then we will essentially have you experience it and then give back feedback. And as I said, like based on the feedback and plus for who have volunteered, we already have the appropriate compensation in place. This was a little bit of an unexpected delay, as I said, but it was important that we completed our certifications. And so very quickly, what I'll do is that I just wanted to share the report that we have. So this is the first one that I want to share, which is, folks, we essentially did, so last week on Reddit, there was some claim by some person saying that the whatever we are doing is not secure, it's insecure, etc. And I do not know because when I asked the person to exactly give me what is the problem, they never replied back to me. But this is essentially a test that was basically done. This has been done by GMI, which is basically a reputed organization based in the US. And here is essentially their finding. So what they have said is they've done all the tests, they've done all of the pieces. And finally, what they basically came up with is basically they've done all of these activities. And the final report was this. So it will basically say, and I'm going to read it out. Throughout the external penetration test, it was observed that Connect Secure follows several good practices of information security, such as limited number of exploitable services exposed, web server responding with generic errors, proper error handling, etc. No security weaknesses were discovered during the external penetration test. In GMI's experience, it's a rare occurrence not to identify any critical or high-risk vulnerabilities. In this case, Connect Secure has sufficiently secured the external-facing assets that are part of the scope of this penetration testing activity. Okay, that's step one. Step two is that let me basically also get the second piece, which is the SOC 2 Type 2 report. So I'm just going to quickly share this. Right, so this is basically the actual SOC 2 Type 2 report, okay? And this will be made available to all of you. And usually this is done under NDA, but one of the key things that I wanted to kind of point out with this whole report that we had, and to just demonstrate to you that we take this very seriously, is that when you look at all of these test results, right? So for each of these items, the last one essentially is a column that talks to you about whether there were any exceptions. So as you can see here, for every single item, there are no exceptions. And the reason is that we actually use a tool to basically track every single metric, which basically is there. And on that tool, we essentially have 100% compliance. And if anybody is interested, I'm basically I'm game to basically kind of walk you guys through the tool. Krishna, who's our CISO, can walk you through that tool, can show you all of the controls that we have and all of the controls that we have in place. And so you can see that every single item is basically addressed. And these are not just items which we are talking about in terms of whether we are doing something, what we're doing on the cloud, but it is also to do with our policies, procedures, our code, whether there are vulnerabilities in the code, what are all of that is basically being measured in all of these. And in none of the, all of the sections, we have no exceptions. And that is basically our commitment to basically keep the security of your data. And that is basically what we are this thing. And this was done not just on one version, it was done both on V3 and V4 simultaneously, because we understand that we have your data on both the systems. So we did not, we had to pay extra for this, but we basically got it for both the V3 systems and the V4 systems. And if you basically want a copy of this, there are procedures in place which essentially will allow you to look at this whole thing. So with that said, I will stop this part. Let me continue with the updates on what we were doing. So just give me a second. Okay, so that's basically as far as the certification is concerned. Now, basically coming back to what are the V4 improvements that we've been working on. And in fact, if you see today, once we got the certification, now we rolled out the agent, a new version of the agent, a whole bunch of things have gotten rolled out. The improvements that we made in V4, agents are now stable and are reporting correctly. So offline, online problems that you earlier had was basically kind of solved. There were three primary reasons for why this was happening. Okay, so we've changed the technology. So in the older version of V3, what happens is that the agent basically keeps asking the server, making HTTP requests to our server, which basically says, do I have work? Do I have a work? Do I have work? And this is basically age-old technology that works, but basically is too chatty. And basically the biggest problem that we face with this is that we get too many requests, and then when those requests fail, then basically jobs don't get download allocated correctly. So we essentially in V4 basically had a subscription-based architecture where basically we used a technology which is called NATS, which basically based on MQTT basically connects, and essentially you did subscriptions, and then based on the subscription, it basically do this. The problem that we faced was NATS was basically looking at all the subscribers, and there were a whole bunch of machines that what they would call as slow subscribers. So when you have slow subscribers, what happens is that the memory load on the machine increases dramatically more. And so basically it was slowing down. So we did a complete architecture change over the last weekend, where we moved from this subscription model to what is called a request reply model with a fallback to HTTPS. So we implemented all of this in one go, wherein we basically went from a subscription model to basically we send a request and we get a reply in real time. And that basically has caused basically a whole bunch of agents to come online, and basically you will see stability now. If there are any agents which are basically prior to that you see in your portal, which are more than older, which is 4.3.29. My only request is please help us by restarting the services once, and it'll update to the 0.29 version. In fact, today it'll update to the 0.30 version. Now, last week, one of the biggest things that was brought back to us, and I think it was our friends at Marco who basically pointed it out to us, is CrowdStrike from April 15th onwards or 14th, basically started publishing that we basically had some sort of malicious scripts with us. And what we basically kind of, these were the scripts that were running for the past 6 months, but suddenly CrowdStrike started basically marking them as malicious. And then we basically tried to basically kind of contact CrowdStrike, but CrowdStrike has a policy that nobody but their customers can contact them. So basically it went into deaf ears. So then we basically kind of installed CrowdStrike and went through a process of elimination. So we went through each of the items. We went through each piece of, we executed each section of code. And finally, we found that basically there were a set of LDAP queries that we are executing. If the machine was to connect to the AD and etc., which was basically there as part of the PowerShell script that we were running to essentially extract information from AD. Now that was the trigger why it was basically coming out. No, we do not know why suddenly this has gotten triggered with CrowdStrike, but since we found this out, what we then have done is that we've taken Active Directory DS Sync and basically use those APIs to basically pull the data. And today, when we tested the latest agent, this basically has this has not triggered any alerts on CrowdStrike. So we are hoping that this problem is behind us. And going forward, we'll basically look at how we can work with CrowdStrike. And if as partners you have any buddy in CrowdStrike to whom we can basically reach out to, it would be great if you can give us the contact so that we can essentially kind of, because we had a similar problem with ThreatLocker. And now ThreatLocker has a copy of our agent, and whenever we release it, they get an automated copy of it. So that way, basically, ThreatLocker doesn't throw up errors over here. A similar system, if implemented, would basically help us in this particular case. So there is a final set of things that we basically have to address in the V4 release that we are basically going to be doing in the April 30th release. One is essentially, we are seeing that people are complaining about slow performance in the remediation screens and the vulnerability screens. Now, this is different from some issues that people would have faced yesterday when they clicked on drop-downs. That was because of a bug that was basically introduced in Chrome, the latest version that they released day before yesterday, which basically affected Angular 15, which is basically which is the framework that we're using. And so yesterday night, we basically released an update to it. And so the problem basically is removed, but that was not essentially something that was could be attributed to us, but we basically have fixed it with a workaround, and basically Chrome will be fixing this in the next update that they provide. Second is that we are basically giving a mechanism by which you can do dashboard customization. And last but not least, there are a whole bunch of UI fixes that we are essentially putting together so that the UI becomes seamless, and also basically the menus look like V3. So these changes are essentially coming as part of the April 30th release. Now, I just wanted to say apologies if you have sent me a mail and I've not responded. It's because of I'm a little busy under the weather trying to get some of these things organized and getting it done, especially with the certification, etc. So I will definitely get back to you on Friday, because I know I saw a bunch of mails from Matt, Simon, others. Please, apologies. I will basically respond back to you by Friday. Now, the release updates basically which are there, which will be delivered by end of this week. The first thing is that I wanted to very quickly preview. So for example, report customization. So here is basically like we can get the doc template like you had in V3. Now you can go in, you can make the changes, right? And so we basically brought this entire thing back so that you can essentially kind of make do whatever you want with these changes. So now you have a template which you have customized. And now when you go into standard reports and you download that standard report, it will essentially use your customized template. And as with V3, you basically have that yellow band around it, which essentially allows you to see that this particular thing has been customized. So So you can see the color schemes that we did, and basically the row was removed, here a column was removed, all of that basically has taken effect, okay? So this customization is basically going to be provided, and this will be there in your systems this weekend. The next one is basically we have some help links that are there right on the page, so that it redirects you to the exact page, so you can essentially kind of get help instantly instead of basically having to kind of find out what basically. So it's basically context sensitive help that's in there. Build info for the UI updates. So because we constantly keep updating the UI, so people have been asking for versions of the UI updates, and this basically also has been updated over here. The next one is that in the compliance, we continue to basically add new OSs. So we basically added support for Debian variants, and then basically for all SUSE versions. So you can essentially do complete compliance checks for all of your Debian and SUSE systems. We already had Ubuntu and all of those systems. So basically it kind of completes a lot of the Linux ecosystem that you have. The next one is that you can actually choose a bunch of items that you want to remediate, and then basically you can choose to remediate the non-compliant items. And then when you click on remediate, it essentially gives you two options. One is basically using the local policy, in which case it can actually send it to the agent and make the changes. The second is that if you ask for a group policy, it will give you a download of the group policy, and you can basically apply the group policy in your system, okay? And then we have a complete results table for the attack surface mapper, where you can basically see all of the results of the attack surface and basically view the results, and then basically complete report in the UI for the attack surface mapper. Last but not the least, there was a commitment that I made to one of our customers that on April 24th, we will essentially give them these three compliances, which was the NIST 171, GDPR, and CMMC. And I'm happy to say that these three are basically now going to be available, and we'll be pushing this live shortly. So you can essentially start your assessments, and then you can basically kind of use the templates and all of those pieces to upload the evidence and basically do all of the stuff with the CMMC asset questionnaire. So those are basically the updates for this week. I thank you all for your patience, and basically, if you need anything, just basically please reach out to me, and we'll get those things resolved. Okay. Andy, you have a question?
I didn't know if you were going to go through the chat or not, but I had a couple of questions. One is there a web page on Connect Secure that says for version 4, these are the current integrations that are supported? I'm thinking like SonicWall versus not supported.
Andy, honestly, I don't think we have such a web page, but basically I will make sure that we get that web page in place. Ryan, can
I think
be
that'd be really helpful for us to save on evaluation. Is it time to go to V4 yet? Because we will be able then to say, hey, we need this integration, and as long as we know what's not there, it makes it a lot less burdensome to evaluate.
I agree with you. Ryan, can we essentially kind of take this action item to basically keep a list of, let's take each firewall. What are the makes and models that we support? Let's basically put that in there, please.
And it could be other integrations as well. And then
Yeah.
secondly, I'm becoming keenly aware that I need to map CIS categories to specific elements in my tool set. Is there such a mapping that exists, either Connect Secure to CIS or CIS to Connect Secure, so that we could say, you know, these are the areas that Connect Secure helps us with, and this is how we could use that, and these are the areas where we have to go outside of Connect Secure?
We have a mapping, and our CISO, Krishna, I think he's not available today because he's this thing. I can have him either get on a call with you or basically send you an email, because we built a complete spreadsheet with the complete mapping of what is Connect Secure going to be doing automated, what is manual, and what basically is policy, which basically you need from, which you need to basically develop on your own.
Where is that spreadsheet that I might be able to find it?
I will basically,
Shiva, hi, I'm here on the call. I can connect with you later and we can discuss
Thank
on
you.
that.
yeah.
All right.
We'll take that up.
Yeah, and Andy and Shiva, this is Ryan. We'll publish that as a page for all the partners that want to learn and understand what Andy's talking about in regards to the CIS mapping. So I also have that. We'll get it published in our documentation along with the integration request that you had.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, can you please address upgrades for on-prem deployments for this? No, I've been told the final stages of testing and this thing is just pushed to next call again. Chris, the answer to this, I'm going to be very straightforward, not this thing. The point is that we today we are basically fixing up V4 and buttoning it up. So every week we basically were moving earlier with a very positive attitude, saying that next week will be fully done, and so we don't need to worry about it. The point is very simple. At this particular stage, we are basically pushing in almost like, I can tell you that we are basically almost resolving on a per day basis. We are basically either adding a set of features which basically has to be with V3 or V4, V3, V4 compliance, or customers basically saying that without this tool cannot be used effectively. So when we take those pieces plus the bugs that are reported, we essentially are making approximately anywhere between 45 to 50 commits per day. Now, the rate at which I'm basically pushing into my SaaS instance, that is, I am doing almost like about 21 pushes per day into my SaaS instances. Now, when I'm doing these in the SaaS instances, it's okay because I have mechanisms to basically kind of make sure that I can roll back, I can do all of those pieces. The only reason that I have everything ready with on-prem. The reason is that when I put it on-prem, then your expectation is going to be that it is basically it works exactly like the SaaS version. And we made that mistake in V3, where there would always be a difference between the two, and people are very upset with us, and we don't want to make the same mistake again. So I have been the one who's been holding up the team, saying that let's get to a state where we are not pushing, we are pushing one update per day. And at that point of time, I can manage the on-prem versions also, because they also basically require that we push the updates regularly and we basically keep them up to date. So that's basically one of the reasons, because if I start pushing 50 updates a day, then the on-prem versions will basically become, for them, it will become a huge burden. And for us also, it is going to be a huge burden because of the number of on-prem systems that we have to manage.
That's all well and good, but it feels like every week we're being told next week. So I guess can we, instead of being told next week, can we get kind of a non-bullshit stance on, is it going to be 4 more weeks, 4 more months, or 2025, or when will on-prem be able to take advantage of some of these new features?
So the hard date that I will give you and I will commit to, because when I give a commitment, I make sure that I keep the commitment. You will get this on May 15th, 2024. You will basically get an upgrade version, which you can install on your systems, and we'll be able to manage it.
Very well, I'll put that on my calendar.
Yes, please put it and hold me to it. It's my commitment, and I will keep that commitment. Lawrence. Yeah.
Sorry, hey, I just had a question. We're running into some issues with the reporting when we're addressing vulnerabilities, and I just feel like I can't trust what's being sent from CyberCNS versus the other RMM tool we're using to kind of check and verify. And is there any way you can go into deeper detail or give an update on when that issue should be resolved, or have any guidance on that issue specifically?
So that issue, did we have inconsistency earlier? I think we had a slight inconsistency, but of late, we've received, so I personally looked into almost like 48 different tickets where people said that some other tool like Nessus or Tenable reported these, but you guys didn't report this. And for all of those, essentially what I've done is that I've taken spreadsheets of what they received there versus what we received from our side. And then we essentially proved that all of them are false positives. And then we said, then the report is matching. So JB, I think what I would request is, it is possible that we have missed something, but if you can send me a mail, my email ID is shiva@connectsecure.com with your tenant name and telling me like what you're missing, or if you have a report which basically says these are the things you're missing, I will personally look into it and I will basically send you back a response saying what is basically correct or what is wrong with the whole thing.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's not comparing you guys to another tool specifically, but it's just like, for instance, the ConnectWise, there was a vulnerability in version 23.8, and we've been blasting through our environments to get that resolved and make sure that everybody's on 23.9. But if I go back to CyberCNS to check and see where I'm at, it's still reporting that 23.8's all across this environment. But if I go directly to the machine and verify, the only version that's sitting there is 23.9. So it seems like it's not updating even when you go to the site, select every asset and say full scan, update this information now so my vulnerability scores will go up. It just seems like it's not catching that. But I'll absolutely send you an email.
Please send me an email. I will get this resolved. Very often what happens is that when some of these pieces upgrade, what they do is they essentially kind of, sometimes if you don't reboot, they don't update the versions over there. And then second is that sometimes these updates, we may have to do something special, which is they just don't update the versions basically in the registry, but they just update the versions in the executable itself. So then we'll have to put an executable based check. But that is something that I'll have to look at. But please send me this specific issue that you're facing, and I'll make sure that this is either resolved or basically I'll give you a reason for why it is happening.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So Lawrence, you said is pen testing an annual thing? As this report is from 2023. No, this report was 2024. It is basically, it was just given to us 10 days back. So this is not a report from 2023. This is a report of 2024. So the pen testing is basically done. So basically there is a formal pen test which is basically performed once a year and basically as part of the whole SOC 2 type 2 compliance. But from our side, we essentially do a continuous pen test, which basically is every week. And because we basically want to pen test every release that we put out. So that's how we do it. Will the compliance report in V4 mimic those in V3? Absolutely, James. All of those reports are coming here. When can we expect the macOS installer to be code signed and developer ID? We cannot distribute macOS as some in-house IT managers seeing us as less secure. So this is a process that we have just completed, where we basically gotten an ID and then we also signed it. And now we have a ticket open with Apple, because even though we have signed it using the Apple provided certificate for us, it essentially, when we install it on the macOS systems, it basically is not recognizing the certificate as being secure. So when Apple gives us that go ahead, that's the only thing that is left in basically releasing a macOS installer that is basically code signed with the developer ID. Is there a web page that will list the supported APIs interfaces with third-party support on V4? There is already a web page. You can actually, if you go to your instance and then you basically click on, there is a section called API. So you actually get API description. You get basically you can execute the commands from there. And there is documentation also around it. Agent.30 is planned to release. It's already released, Gabriel. So in the next 72 hours, all of the agents will update to .30. Dennis, I agree. The channels have become very quiet because we've just been kind of grinding through things. But I agree totally that we should keep the communication updates in place. And I will basically request help of somebody, because I think I'm too slammed for it, but I'll get somebody to help me out with basically kind of posting updates. Vishali, this is something that let's look at it and basically close this thing. So let's basically start putting out updates basically saying that these are done, and also the release notes basically up there. So Andy, I think we answered your question. Tyler, was that SOC 2 against all 5 TSCs? Yes. Is there a current dashboard that will show? Yes, there is, Paul, and I'll ask somebody to basically send this across to you. Just send me an email and I'll basically get this done.
Apologies for the
What's your email?
interruption.
Go ahead.
About the SOC 2 TSCs, I actually got a different answer that it was only against 3, the common controls, confidentiality, and availability.
Hi, this is Krishna here. That's correct. We have been, the 3 is the minimum TSC that you need to be audited against, and we were audited against those 3 which I've mentioned in the comment for your question.
Okay, thanks.
What's that email I can reach out to you at?
It's shiva@connectsecure.com. I'll post it here.
I'm sorry, say that again. Is it just your last name?
I'm just posting it on the
Perfect.
chat, so.
Thank you.
Yep. I recall there was an option V2, V3 to download CS benchmark GPUs. Will this be available in V4 in the future? Yes, Simon. And in fact, it is much more expanded. So if you remember, basically we had fixes for 238 items in V3. We are expanding that to basically 380 in V4. So the team has worked to expand it to 380 in V4. We'll keep expanding it, but basically this will be something that you'll be able to download. And this is coming as part of this week's release. So. Folks, I think I covered everything. Could you cover how the remote agent install option works when a device is discovered using a probe? I've not been able to get it working on my end. So, Simon, could you just come on? I just didn't understand the question.
Yeah, no problem, Shiva. So my understanding is there's a feature or capability with in the portal with remote agent install. So unless I've got this sort of incorrect, is if a probe discovers an asset on the network, my understanding was that there's an option that you can, if you turn on the remote agent install, it will attempt to install the lightweight agent on that device. I don't know if that's correct or not.
That's correct.
I was just wondering what are the requirements for that to work? Because I've tried it with a few customers and I haven't had much success, or in fact no success with it. So I don't know if there was any specific requirements or things I need to switch on, or credentials I need to map, or
you need to enable this specifically on a per company basis.
Right. Okay. Because I've done that for probably 3 or 4 different customers, and then just allowed that to run or to trigger the actual job itself to do the remote install, and I've not had much success with it. I can log a ticket, not a problem.
Yep. Simon, don't log a ticket, send it to me so that I can basically prioritize it and I can very quickly get you support, and we'll basically get this closed because it's working. I know that my friend Dennis already uses it. So I think it should be a fairly simple thing, something that basically may have gone here or there and we can quickly fix it up.
Okay, thank you.
Craig, update about third-party patching. The new patching engine is working very well. We have had a whole bunch of customers who've used it. They are happy with the patching. It does not use any Chocolatey repository. It does not use any Winget repositories. It is completely built ground up and basically validated by our team. And we are very happy with the patching engine in terms of its performance, in terms of its ability to basically patch the systems correctly. And as I committed earlier, come June, we will basically be patching Mac and Linux systems. And this patching engine basically has superior performance. It basically has resilience, and it is also basically, we are able to kind of identify what needs to be patched and what does not need to be patched. So these are all basically in there. And the complete patching list of applications is basically there in the documentation now, and we are adding more. And as I said, by the end of this year, we will basically have 2000 plus applications that you can patch through this system. Okay, I believe that then all the questions are covered. So folks, I would say thank you for all of your support, and especially Dennis, Simon, Steve Pollack, and a lot of others who basically have been with our team and basically have given us very, very positive, very, very clear feedback in terms of what's working and what's not working, and really helped our team in kind of when we have to have debugging sessions, spending the time with us to essentially help debug these things. Because please remember that we have a limited set of devices or a limited set of environments that we can basically test against. And what you guys have is basically something much more vast. So when you give us the opportunity to do this, we are extremely thankful for all of the opportunities that you give us to basically better the product. Thank you very much. And basically, we'll see you all next week.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Bye-bye.